Hi, Michelle.
Hey, Mom, it's so good to see you again.
It is so good to be with you again and so good to be with our listeners. I so appreciate the conversations that we've been having around community and connection. It's been really wonderful to spend time thinking about these issues and talking about things and figuring it all out together.
Absolutely, yeah. I feel my head turning even when we're not together. I'm still thinking about these things, and I look forward to hearing more from our listeners now that our episodes are out in the world.
Absolutely, absolutely. So many of us are looking and thinking about community and connection in new ways these days. It's been a wonderful conversation to be having. So, yay, this is wonderful to be talking again today. And I have an inkling that you may have some interesting insights for us to think about community because as I understand it, you have recently been participating in improv classes.
Yes, so this is something I'm very excited to talk about. And it wasn't until we started having these conversations that I started to make the connection to how awesome improv theater is at teaching us lessons about community and connection. More people than ever are stepping away from organized religion. So, where do we turn for support, meaning, and connection? Hi, friends, and welcome to Connection from Here, finding community in a changing world. I'm Michele Perry.
And I'm Ashley Beatty Perry.
We're so happy you're here. I've taken a few introduction to improv classes, and I want to go ahead and encourage everybody who's listening, if you haven't done it, and it's offered in your city, see if you can get into an introduction to improv class. And Mom, as you know, I identify as introverted. So this is not something, if you yourself listeners are like, no, I can't do it, can't interact with strangers, I'm not good at acting, I can't speak in front of people. That's how I was too. And yet, improv is set up so well to be welcoming to everybody, no matter your background.
I was going to ask about that, but taking improv classes sounds
Yeah.
really interesting to me. But I'm wondering, if you have to have experience coming into it, or is it really is just a welcoming space for everybody, it sounds like.
Yes. From based on the people that I've seen in improv classes before, you have some of them who really do want to be actors and or stand-up comedians, but then you have other people who are just trying to break out of their shell or do something that scares them, improve public
Yeah.
speaking. Some people were like, I have social anxiety and I'm here to try to overcome some of that. So really just all people.
What a great avenue, an interesting activity that you may not think about. So I'm so glad that you're doing these things. And maybe if those of us who are interested but don't have an improv class available to us nearby, we'll just kind of live vicariously through you. And maybe so today you can kind of share about like how this is. This is really fascinating. And I'm so interested about how the techniques really may apply to all of us as we're seeking community and connection. I'm looking forward to hearing about this.
I'm glad to be able to be your improv class from rural Alabama because I know there's not a lot of offerings offerings
Right.
there.
That's right. So please do dive in and bring us with you a little bit about like what this process is and how these pieces can apply for us as we are talking about community and connection.
Yeah. So the one that maybe everybody is familiar with, or you may have heard before, is the phrase yes and. That one
Okay.
kind of gets thrown
Okay.
around day to day speech. Somebody might be like, yes and. but yeah, it has its roots in improv. And it's like the
Okay.
foundational piece
Yeah.
of, what improv is. The idea of improv is you don't come in with any specific plan. There's rules, but very loose rules. The main rule
Okay.
being yes and. So whatever your scene partners, your group is giving to you, you don't shut it down. You say
Okay.
yes. You affirm what they have said. That is true. We're building this world together. And what you just
Okay.
said is a true part of our world. And and then that's what you do is you add a little bit, your own layer to it. You
Okay.
accept what they've offered and then you add your
Okay.
own layer to it.
So this is something that, like in your case, there may be a scene going on and here's something they've said or talked about. So the idea is not to shut that down, but to kind of keep it going, add to it then.
Exactly. And I think maybe we can
Okay.
do a little bit of demo right now. And it's
Oh,
so
okay.
fun.
Okay.
If you guys know anyone in your lives to try this out with, go crazy. But one of the first warm up activities we did is a one-on-one. You have a
Okay.
partner, that's going to be you. You pretend that you're throwing a party. So we're going to throw a party
Okay.
and we're going to talk about what we want to bring and have at this party. So one of us will start. The other person will continue by saying yes and then say what else you want to bring to the party. So we're not going to say no. We can make this as big and go in any direction we want. So I'll start and we'll see how this goes.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Mom, I am throwing a party and I'm going to bring balloons.
Yes. And I'm going to bring bowls.
Yes, that is a great idea. We definitely need bowls. I was thinking we should also bring a tablecloth.
Oh, a tablecloth, it's definitely needed. I would like to also bring some flowers.
Yes, and I think we need a clown at the party.
Oh, I love clowns. A clown would be great. And I would like to also bring a dog.
Yes, and I love your thinking about the dog and the vase with the flowers. Definitely sounds like a good idea. And let's also bring some cats.
Oh, so a clown and dogs and cats. Boy, this party is already looking fun. I would like to bring some flashlights.
Yes, and we can play hide and seek. So
That's
yes,
right.
that's an example. This party can be whatever you want it to be. You could keep going on forever. One of my partners and I were talking about summoning Frida Kahlo from the dead at our party or something like that. So that's how crazy it got.
The yes and can go. Yeah,
It
you're
can go, it
really
can go.
creating a world.
Exactly. And so this yes and practice kind of leans into the next principle that I want to talk about, which is supporting your scene partners, which can help cultivate trust and empathy.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah,
And
please say
so
more about that. Yes.
what makes improv special and different maybe than other forms of performance, or maybe not, I'm not from that world, but your scene partner is not your competition, they're your collaborator. You guys have to rely on each
Oh,
other to lift each other up. In improv, it's not about yourself making yourself look good and having that moment where you're a star. It's about
okay.
supporting your partner. Your partner has to know, I got you.
Okay.
Like if you're
I've
fumbling,
got
don't know what to say, show
Yeah.
up and give them something to make them look good.
Oh, I love that aspect of it. Already, these are pieces that feel like community. You are adding to the conversation together. You know that your partner has you. So already seems so applicable to if we are interested in establishing connection and community with others, that these pieces building a sense of we are not in opposition here, but we are together and finding our way through the scene, finding our way through the life situation together. Gosh, that feels good.
It really does. And it also kind of takes some of the pressure off because everyone is so worried about, oh, will I say the right thing? Will I be funny in the moment, on the
Yeah,
spot? But really, it just flows right into the next thing. If you focus less on yourself and saying the right thing,
yeah,
you can focus on lifting other people up. And I think that I felt it to be true in thinking about life in
yeah,
general. I'm so
yeah,
worried about my own successes and, oh, am I making mistakes? Am I doing the right thing?
yeah,
I don't want to fail. But if I turn that outward, focus more on
yeah,
others and how they're doing, and focus on being a part of the whole,
yeah,
it suddenly becomes way less pressuring and something more
yeah.
beautiful. So I think that's just one of the great things that improv's taught me, not worry so much about myself because I'm part of the
That's
whole. I'm
right.
part of the whole.
I love that aspect of it too, because I think so much of society, especially in America, we are such an individualistic
Yeah.
culture and so focused on the self in every aspect. I mean, trying to make it on your own and
Yeah.
do this. And, we've kind of got our structure set up. It's hard to lean on people and so something about that collaboration piece to know I've got you. I am in this moment with somebody. It's opposite of the individualistic. We already are now connected in community, and whatever unfolds in the scene, whatever unfolds in life, now we are held in that space where we don't have to figure it out by ourselves. If I make the wrong move in this scene, I'm still going to be okay. We will figure it out together. What a lovely, lovely gift.
Right. And kind of building off of what you said, I'd also, for me, emphasize the point of you don't have to be perfect or even know exactly what you're doing to be there for someone else. The first improv teacher I had, he always said, lead with your feet. If you feel someone is floundering on stage and they're kind of like losing steam, don't even think, just go out there and help. So just lead with your feet, walk out there. You don't have to have the answer. And this was something that was kind of hard because a lot of us were on the sidelines like, oh, I want to help, but I don't know exactly what to do. So don't let perfection be the enemy of the good. Just get out there and help your fellow improver. So we can kind of take that with us into the rest of the world too, I think.
Oh my gosh. And I've heard this time and time again, I know so-and-so is going through a hard time, but I didn't know what to say, or I didn't know what to do, or I didn't want to disturb them, or I didn't want, which is kind of opposite of what actually could be helpful for, making someone feel cared for and making sure someone knows they are in this space of connection. Because that response, it leaves people, again, to the individuals, good luck to you kind of thing. I know you're going through something hard, but because I don't know what may be the perfect thing to say or do, I just won't do anything and let you flounder. What an important aspect that comes from that improv world of lead with your feet. You see somebody that is maybe having a hard time, go ahead, get in that space with the person to say, I'm here. You are not alone out here floundering. I'm here. We'll figure this out together. Oh, what joy.
I love how improv is just the perfect mix of individuality and collectivity. And we talked about last episode how meaningful it is. Like, you have to find the balance of not conforming to the community, staying authentic to yourself, but also feeling enough connection and sense of belonging that you have some common ground with the folks in your community. Another thing that my first improv instructor told us is to see each other's contributions as gifts. We would refer to them as gifts. Everybody in the improv group comes from a different background, has completely different life experiences that brought them there. And so therefore, nobody's going to think about things the exact same way. What somebody brings to the scene is going to be very unique to them because it's what they know. So knowing that and being able to say, okay, what you bring matters because of your perspective. Like, for example, growing up a lot of my life in the South, I would a lot of times try to bring in some Southern accents, try to bring in some characters that I would recognize from the South. That was kind of my perspective a lot of times. But other people who knew about New York would bring in some New York stuff. And, if you're really into Star Wars, a lot of times you'd get some space elements in there. It just became so fun and just so beautiful because we are honoring each other's contributions with a yes and. So it's just a place to bring out all your personal interests, your knowledge, and just create something beautiful together.
These are gifts that really you would not have otherwise in your life if the other partner, like the scene partner in improv, but people in the world, in community, it is making the scene almost richer and more beautiful and more vibrant because these gifts are coming in from people who do have different experiences and have been through different things. So therefore they're able to contribute in ways that you would never even think about. That is truly a gift that it's like the scene. I imagine that like the scene in improv, the experience in life then becomes more full because you've got this diversity of life experiences, this diversity of insights that really now the scene, the life situation now has become more interesting and has more depth because of these gifts being brought, I would imagine.
Absolutely. It's like a book that's being authored by 10 different people, or, if you're on stage with one person, 2 different people, and you have a lot of times the way that your brain is seeing the story unfold does not at all match how your scene partner is going to see their own story unfold. So you get sometimes that juxtaposition of concepts right next to each other, and it's It's pretty hilarious, but also it can be beautiful, and it's so fun not knowing. No one knows quite how it's gonna turn out.
That's right.
Nobody knows.
That's right. That's right. There again, something else very applicable to life. We're trying to figure this out together. Who knows?
Oh, exactly. Yeah,
Oh.
and that creates a sense of camaraderie too, because
Yes.
I'm really okay. So this next principle, I didn't even think about until I got into improv, and I was like, because at first I'm like, I don't know if I want to make a fool of myself, because the kind of things that they have you do, basically you feel like you're playing pretend. I haven't done this since I was 5 years old on the playground.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
The idea of being vulnerable and two sides of the same coin, being playful. So it feels very vulnerable to put yourself out there, to be weird and silly and just say the first thing that comes to mind. But it also feels so genuine. And you know that everyone else there is doing the same thing. Some of our warm-ups would start by just saying our name and some crazy sound. So I'd be like, my name is Michelle. And then everybody around you would repeat it. Her name is Michelle. And so you feel so silly. But everyone is affirming it, and then everyone else takes turns doing the same thing. That creates a sense of camaraderie because we're all being vulnerable and we're playing. It's that sense of play that's really important for adults to hold on to. We're all doing that together, and that creates a bond.
I would imagine, because for the improv to work, for the one person to be willing to have some vulnerability and for the other people to provide that safe space, it's safe to be vulnerable here. You will be affirmed in your vulnerability, which allows now for all of us to bring our vulnerability to the table, because we now have an affirming space where the funny sounds or, the ways we are, in real life vulnerable. This is a space where that will be held in a safe way and be affirmed. Again, talking about bringing depth and enriching the human connection and our human experience together. It feels so important that the playfulness, the joy that you're finding in that really would not be possible without that vulnerability being offered and then held safe.
Yeah. That's such a good way of putting it. It makes you think about how sometimes, let me know if you feel the same way, that the greatest bonds are often formed by doing some kind of fun activity together. So even if it's just gardening together, or you're doing a Zumba class, or you're cooking something where there's an element of fun, of creativity, of building, and you get to do that with others. I don't know. I've found that that's a lot of times how the greatest bonds and connections are formed.
Now that you say it, that feels so true, doesn't it? That it's like almost in the creating something together, the gardening together, or here's an activity, here's what we are doing together. And what we're doing together is made more expansive because we're both here doing it, and you're not having to do it by yourself. I love that aspect of it. And then because to build a space, a safe space for connection and vulnerability does take, here we are in it together. Here we are doing the activity together, doing the event together, doing the, we're here. We're all showing up here.
Exactly. That's why they always said at improv, like, if you show up at the beginning, you've done half the job. You're there. So you showed up. We're all here together. Showing up's half the battle.
Okay. And then very applicable to real life too. I seriously, I think there's something to that in these days, especially where sometimes it can feel hard to show up, when you feel uncertain about, again, like we were saying earlier, whether it's, you're not sure you're going to say the right thing if you show up. You're not sure that, it's going to be exactly how you think it's going to be if you show up. But in the showing up, that allows something new to now happen.
Exactly. Yep, you're there. So, okay, this next principle, I think super, super applicable to almost any relationship, to every relationship, and that's active listening, which, enhances your communication. Yeah. So at the very start of each improv class, and I did this in 2 different cities, so I can confirm this is a widespread activity. I play Zip, Zap, Zop, which is basically just a passing of attention So I would look at you and I would say zip. And then you would find somebody else. We'd be in a circle of some sort. And you'd look at someone else and say zop. And it's constantly practice moving that word with the eye contact to another person. So you're constantly looking around the circle. Who has the zip, the zap, the zop? And who are they going to give it to? So it's so simple. You just zip, zap, zop for like, on and on and on until the end of the world. But you're focusing on who has it. It forces you to just be present and focused on whoever has the word, because it could be coming to you. So you just follow. And it's so simple, but it brings you out of your mind, and brings you into the present moment as you're getting ready to start our improv class together. Just that attentive listening is such a vital skill that, not everybody has.
And again, what a gift, because in life, it almost feels like as we go about our day to day, it's kind of a rare thing where you feel like you're really being listened to in an attentive way. I think often it feels like, you're speaking and the person you're talking to may be listening only to figure out what their reply is going to be or what their answer is going to be, or what, instead of hearing actual words that are being said that may not even need an answer, but just need, to be heard. You just need to be heard.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I still run into that sometimes. Sad to say, it's where when you're talking to someone, they say something and you're like, okay, I have the perfect response for that, or I'm going to say this. And then they move on to something else, or they say something else that kind of takes the conversation in a different direction. But then you weren't really paying attention because you were just thinking about what you wanted to say to something else they said. But by then the boat has sailed on. And
that's right.
Yeah. And you're more caught up in your own conversation in your head, rather than just like being present. Just being okay that you can't have control, the conversation, the scene is going to go on. But if you're always there and being active and listening, not just to the actual words, but to body language too. Like that's a big one. I know that you use a lot of body language, Mom, like talking with your hands and eye contact and tone, not just your words, but how do you say your words? All these things are cues or gifts, as we can say, that add to the story, add to the scene. And you can take that cue and yes and it and build something even better on top, even greater on top of that with them.
Again, it feels so applicable. These aspects of that are coming from improv and being highlighted in improv, it feels so applicable to life, because sometimes, again, we're out in the world, we're trying to say what matters to us, or say, here's where I felt hurt, or here's where I'm struggling or having problems here, or whatever. And then when you feel like people are not really hearing you and not giving attention to your body, this is, I may be saying it this way, but you can tell by my body language that I am genuinely hurt by this, or you're giving that as a gift. You're being vulnerable in putting it out there. And then you feel like people, are only listening to respond, or, not really taking in all of you. It almost makes you feel more isolated. I think that, I've tried to say this, I clearly wasn't heard in what I was trying to convey. It can feel dismissive, and it can make you feel even more isolated if what you're trying to convey is, this was a place of hurt, or this is an area I'm struggling. Well, gosh, now I feel even more alone in that, because I tried to put my gift out there and my gift was not received.
Yeah, we've all experienced where we're talking to someone, or we drop something. Maybe it's not even a huge, but we mentioned like a little something that just kind of gets ignored or brushed over. Yeah. I think that's especially true when you're having like a conversation with a lot of people. There's a lot, like you have a whole group and you say something, but then it just kind of gets swept away by the next joke or the next thing. I think us humans have a tendency of not always being able to be like, okay, everybody, this is really important. I need to let this out there. We don't always know to set that up.
That's right. That's right.
So, and I think that makes it easy for things to just kind of get swept aside. But if you're an active listener, you can kind of pick up on these cues, and you can be like, oh, Mom, you quickly said something. I wanted to ask you, can you say more about that? You mentioned this, and I want to hear more about that. So, if you're listening, you can catch these things. And I think it's especially important for those people who aren't talkers, the more quiet
Yeah.
people among us who are more listeners and, taking
right.
it in, to be cognizant of everybody, of their body language, of tone. I think that's so special and something that we can all take with us.
I love the description that the improv uses about gifts,
Yeah.
because it truly is, if somebody is sharing a piece of themselves with you, it is a gift. What a gift to know something more about another person and to be able to understand a person in a deeper way, to see where the person's coming from. It is a gift. And I really appreciate these improv aspects that it just feels like improv knows how to create a community. Improv knows how to create connections that if we can move these aspects into our daily life with each other, and as we're seeking deeper connections with others, these are gifts. Human connection is a gift, and the person offering the gift is enriched by having their gift held and appreciated and part of the community. And then the person, who receives the gift also is made a little more whole by, okay, here's something else I didn't know. And how can we connect in this way? What true insights into what makes us humans be stronger in our bonds with other humans. Good job, improv classes.
I know.
Right.
I think everybody should, if you're unable to take a class, but you're in a city one day that does have improv, just going to see a show can be fun too. It has a lot of audience involvement and just makes you walk out feeling a little bit lighter, a little bit free.
Yeah.
You're seeing more humor in the world, I think. Yes, and there's one more principle. I think we've already kind of touched on it, through everything else, but really want to mention how improv is all about being present. Everybody comes to the class with the different experiences and stressors from their day, but the idea is kind of, we're leaving that behind for our time together, and we're just going to be very present in our bodies. And you don't have time to worry about, oh, maybe I said the wrong thing or I didn't get that joke in the scene, because you need to focus on the now. You can't focus on that. You also can't focus on what's going to happen next. You just have to focus on being there in the moment. I realize all the time when I'm doing activities and my mind just gets swept away. I could be brushing my teeth, but thinking about something that happened 10 years ago, or wondering about what it's going to be like 10 years in the future. But
that's right.
In the moment, I'm just simply brushing my teeth. So if we can focus on being more present in our bodies, not only is it good for us and our brain space, but it's good for our relationships if we are all more present in our bodies and attentive, like we said, with active listening, just attentive to what's going on around us. It just, it brings a different perspective to life and to interactions. It feels lighter and it feels more real.
Wow. These insights from improv, it really does feel like almost kind of a path, a way forward to have stronger connections and build more community in our daily living. These things feel important, and we are gifts. We are sharing gifts and we are receiving gifts if only we're present in the moment to understand what is there to be received and what there is to give. Just such a lovely aspect to hold on to is that if sometimes remaining in the present, it allows us to see things, the vulnerability of others, the gifts that others are bringing, the yes, and here's a person who would like to, have a connection. And if we can be present, it allows us that space to see these things coming from other people that we may not have really paid attention to.
Oh, yes, so true. And to tie it back to our party exercise from earlier, it's kind of like if you don't show up to the party, you don't get any of the gifts. So you got to be present to get these presents.
Oh, that is good. Yes, that's so good. That's so good. And be present, because there's a party being built. There's there's a life being we are creating this space together, creating this connection and community together. Come be part of it and bring the gifts. And I love it. What a lovely community to be part of. They're at the improv class. Gosh, well, I really appreciate you sharing these aspects and thank you for participating in the classes. You'll have to keep us updated.
Oh yeah. I've decided to kind of name our next segment, or our final segment of the show, A Step from Here.
That's right. That's right. So what we have been trying to do is end each of our episodes with maybe a little nugget, a little skill, a little something that we can all, just put into practice immediately and take with us that would somehow bring more connection into our daily lives and show care for others and have care shown to ourselves. Just little nuggets that could kind of help with that. So I like giving our little segment a name.
Improv loves puns, so I have to say A Step from Here. And the name of our podcast is Connection from Here. I just wanted to put that out there in case nobody caught it. So,
okay, a step from here. That's right.
That's it.
So our segment is we're all now taking a little step from here.
Exactly.
Exactly. That's our little gift. Yeah.
Hopefully the gift is received and nobody tries to return it. But
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah. Our step from here for today ties it all together, and it's to consciously practice yes and in the rest of your day or in the rest of your week. Try to consciously practice yes and in one of your interactions. And Mom, maybe you can say more about how that might look.
Okay, I hear that. And I think that can be so helpful because as we're going about our day, if somebody says that was a hard thing we heard about in the office yesterday, people are at work and that was hard to hear. And, I'm kind of struggling with the new way we're going to now have to file these reports. Instead of maybe shutting that down to say, oh, well, I found it easy to file the report. I think it's,
Right.
It's a better way to file it. And so I'm okay with it. Using this yes and way of responding could be like, yes, it is a new way to file the reports. And I hear you saying there's going to be some challenges. And I too am wondering how that's going to be for us. I'm, wondering about how, we'll have the opportunity to file the reports. I think I understand how to file them now, but I too am wondering how this new system is going to work with the reports. That might be just kind of one example of an easy way to, instead of shutting it down, because I think what the person could possibly be saying in a moment like that is, I'm a little scared about this new system that's now going to be put in place at the work. I'm not sure I'm going to know how to do it. And so instead of me, being a person, okay, shut that down. Oh, I know how to do it. It's going to be fine. But what you're doing is giving space for that person to say, this is hard, to be a person who can receive that and say, and we'll do it together. We'll figure it out together, and new possibilities we'll figure out together.
Exactly. You're showing you're with them by saying yes and. There's just something so powerful about that. So yeah, you clearly have mastered the big foundational part of improv, Mom. Congratulations, you passed. Yes,
that's right. I feel good about it. Now I'm ready.
Oh, yes. That's right.
Exactly. Oh, well, thank you so much for sharing your improv insights. And listeners, thank you so much for being with us as we continue these conversations about care and connection. And we appreciate you building these ideas with us, and continue to write in and let us know how these ideas are fitting for you. And we'll be connecting again soon.
Yes, we look so forward, everybody. Let us know how this yes and goes in your life. If you resonated with anything, we'll connect with you next time.
Sounds good. Bye-bye.